The Second World War, a global struggle. World War II was a conflict of unprecedented scale and destruction. It engulfed the globe from 1939 to 1945. The war pitted the Axis powers led by Germany, Italy, and Japan against the Allies. The main Allied powers were Great Britain, the United States, and the Soviet Union. The war arose from the ashes of unresolved conflicts from World War I. Aggressive expansionism by the Axis powers, fueled by nationalist ideologies, ultimately ignited the conflict. The Second World War witnessed some of the most brutal and decisive battles in human history. These confrontations not only determined the fate of nations but also shaped the course of the 20th century. But which battles were the most pivotal in deciding the outcome of this global conflict? This essay examines 4 crucial battles. They are the Battle of Stalingrad, D-Day, the Battle of Normandy, the Battle of Midway, and the Battle of El Alamein. By understanding the strategic importance, key events, and outcomes of these battles, we can gain a deeper appreciation for how World War II was won and lost. The Battle of Stalingrad, fought from August 1942 to February 1943, was a turning point in World War II. This battle is often regarded as one of the deadliest and most significant engagements in the history of warfare. This brutal battle took place in the devastated city of Stalingrad, now known as Volgograd, in the Soviet Union. The city, once a thriving industrial hub, was reduced to rubble and ashes as the conflict raged on. German forces led by General Friedrich Paulus aimed to capture the city. Their objective was not only to seize control of this strategic location but also to deliver a psychological blow to the Soviet Union by taking a city that bore the name of its leader. Stalingrad was a vital industrial center producing armaments and tractors, and its capture would have severely hampered Soviet war production. Additionally, the city held symbolic importance as it bore the name of the Soviet leader, Joseph Stalin. The battle quickly devolved into a brutal fight for survival. Soldiers on both sides faced unimaginable hardships, with the urban landscape turning into a nightmarish battleground. Both sides engaged in fierce street fighting and close-quarters combat. Buildings, factories, and homes became fortresses and death traps, with every inch of ground fiercely contested. Soviet soldiers defended their ravaged city with unwavering determination. Despite being outgunned and outnumbered at times, their resolve never wavered. They were inspired by Stalin's order, "Not one step back." This directive galvanized the Soviet troops, instilling in them a fierce determination to hold their ground at all costs. The Germans faced fierce resistance from the Soviet defenders. The urban warfare environment negated many of the advantages the German army had enjoyed in previous campaigns. This slowed their advance and drained their resources. The harsh conditions of the battle, combined with the tenacity of the Soviet defense, began to take a toll on the German forces. As winter set in, the tide turned against the Germans. The brutal Russian winter, with its freezing temperatures and relentless snow, compounded the difficulties faced by the German troops. The Soviets launched a massive counteroffensive, encircling the German Sixth Army. This maneuver, known as Operation Uranus, was a masterstroke of military strategy. Trapped and undersupplied in the bitter cold, the German forces faced their doom. Cut off from reinforcements and supplies, their situation grew increasingly desperate. General Paulus surrendered in February 1943. His decision to capitulate marked the first time a German field marshal had surrendered to the enemy. The German Sixth Army was destroyed. This once formidable force was decimated, with many soldiers killed, wounded, or taken prisoner. It was a catastrophic defeat for Germany. The loss of the Sixth Army was a severe blow to the German military and its war effort. The Battle of Stalingrad marked a turning point on the Eastern Front. The Soviet victory shifted the momentum of the war, with the Red Army beginning to push the Germans back. It shattered the myth of German invincibility. The defeat at Stalingrad exposed the vulnerabilities of the German military and boosted the morale of the Allied forces. The battle inflicted heavy losses on the German army. The casualties were staggering, with hundreds of thousands of soldiers lost. It also sapped their morale. The psychological impact of the defeat was profound, affecting the German soldiers' will to fight. The Soviet victory at Stalingrad marked the beginning of the long and arduous Soviet advance westward. This relentless push would eventually lead to the fall of Berlin and the end of the war in Europe. D-Day, June 6, 1944, was a pivotal moment in World War II. It marked the beginning of the Allied invasion of Western Europe. The operation, codenamed Operation Overlord, was a massive undertaking. It involved years of planning and the coordination of forces from the United States, Great Britain, Canada, and other allied nations. General Dwight D. Eisenhower, the Supreme Allied Commander, oversaw the operation. He faced the daunting task of landing Allied troops on the beaches of Normandy, France. The German defenses, commanded by Field Marshal Erwin Rommel, were formidable. Despite heavy losses on some beaches, the Allies gained a foothold in Normandy. The paratroopers who landed behind enemy lines the night before caused chaos and disrupted German communications. Over the following days and weeks, the Allies fought to expand their beachhead. They faced fierce resistance from the German army. The liberation of Paris in August 1944 was a triumphant moment for the Allies. The D-Day landings marked the opening of a second front in Western Europe. This relieved pressure on the Soviet Union in the east. It also paved the way for the eventual Allied victory in Europe. Section 4. A Clash of Carriers, the Battle of Midway. The Battle of Midway, fought from June 4th to 7th, 1942, was a decisive naval battle in the Pacific theater. This battle marked a significant turning point in World War II as it shifted the balance of naval power in the Pacific. It pitted the American fleet against the Japanese Imperial Navy, two formidable forces that had been vying for control of the Pacific Ocean. The battle took place near Midway Atoll, a strategically important island in the Pacific. Midway's location made it a critical point for both the Japanese and American forces, as controlling it would provide a significant advantage in the Pacific theater. The Japanese, under Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, sought to crush the American fleet. Yamamoto believed that by eliminating the U.S. naval presence in the Pacific, Japan could secure its dominance and expand its territory without opposition. They aimed to capture Midway and use it as a base to threaten Hawaii. This would not only disrupt American operations but also serve as a stepping stone for further Japanese expansion. However, the Americans had broken the Japanese naval code. This crucial intelligence breakthrough allowed the U.S. to anticipate Japanese movements and prepare their defenses accordingly. Admiral Chester W. Nimitz, the commander-in-chief of the Pacific Fleet, knew the Japanese plans. With this knowledge, Nimitz was able to strategically position his forces to counter the Japanese attack. The battle raged for several days, with both sides suffering significant losses. The intensity of the combat was a testament to the high stakes involved and the determination of both navies to secure victory. American dive bombers played a crucial role in the battle, launching daring attacks that crippled the Japanese fleet. Their precision and bravery were instrumental in turning the tide of the battle. They sank 4 Japanese aircraft carriers, which were the heart of the Japanese naval power. The loss of these carriers was a devastating blow to the Japanese Navy. The Americans lost only 1 carrier, the USS Yorktown. Despite this loss, the overall outcome of the battle was a significant victory for the United States. The Battle of Midway was a resounding victory for the United States Navy. This triumph boosted American morale and demonstrated that the Japanese Navy was not invincible. The Battle of Midway was a turning point in the Pacific War. It marked the beginning of a shift in momentum, with the United States taking the offensive in the Pacific. It significantly weakened the Japanese Navy, reducing their ability to project power across the Pacific. The loss of their carriers and experienced pilots was a setback from which they would never fully recover. It also halted their advance across the Pacific, preventing them from threatening other key locations. This allowed the Allies to regroup and plan their next moves. The victory at Midway gave the United States the initiative in the Pacific. With the Japanese on the defensive, the U.S. could begin a series of offensives that would eventually lead to the liberation of occupied territories. It set the stage for the eventual Allied victory. The Battle of Midway demonstrated the importance of intelligence, strategy, and bravery in achieving success in warfare. It remains one of the most significant naval battles in history. Section 5. Shifting Sands of War. The Battle of El Alamein. The Battle of El Alamein, fought in October and November 1942, was a crucial turning point in the North African campaign. This battle was not just a clash of armies, but a confrontation of strategies, resources, and wills. It marked a significant shift in the momentum of World War II. It took place near the Egyptian village of El Alamein, west of Alexandria. This location was strategically chosen due to its proximity to the Mediterranean Sea and the vital supply routes that ran through the region. The battle pitted the British Commonwealth forces led by General Bernard Montgomery against the Axis forces under General Erwin Rommel, the Desert Fox. Montgomery, known for his meticulous planning, faced off against Rommel, who was renowned for his bold and swift maneuvers. Rommel's forces had advanced deep into Egypt. Their objective was to seize control of the Suez Canal, a critical artery for the Allied supply lines, and to push further into the Middle East. They threatened the Suez Canal, a vital waterway for the Allies. Control of the canal meant control over the flow of resources and reinforcements, making it a highly strategic target. The British were determined to stop Rommel's advance. They knew that losing the canal would be a devastating blow to their war effort and could potentially alter the outcome of the conflict in the Mediterranean. The two armies clashed in a series of engagements for control of the strategically important Alamein position. The terrain, characterized by its harsh desert conditions, added to the complexity and intensity of the battle. The battle raged for weeks. Both sides were locked in a brutal struggle, with neither willing to concede ground. The relentless desert sun and the scarcity of water and supplies made the conditions even more grueling. Both sides suffered heavy casualties. The human cost of the battle was immense, with thousands of soldiers wounded or killed. Medical aid stations were overwhelmed, and the trenches became scenes of unimaginable hardship. In the end, Montgomery's meticulous planning and the superior firepower of the British artillery proved decisive. His strategy of attrition wore down the Axis forces, and the relentless bombardment from the British artillery broke their resolve. The Axis forces were defeated and forced to retreat. This retreat marked a significant turning point, as it was the first major defeat for Rommel's forces in the North African campaign. The Battle of El Alamein marked the end of Axis dominance in North Africa. The victory was celebrated not just by the troops on the ground, but by the entire Allied command, as it signaled a shift in the balance of power. It boosted Allied morale and paved the way for the eventual Allied invasion of Italy. The success at El Alamein demonstrated that the Axis forces could be defeated and gave the Allies the confidence to launch further offensives. The victory at El Alamein had a significant impact on the course of the war in the Mediterranean. It disrupted the Axis supply lines, weakened their hold on North Africa, and set the stage for future Allied victories in the region.